the UN resolution has been violated for the past 5 months, in fact. But look, very important, breaking news for you guys. I just confirmed a few hours ago, in fact. Guess who is the de facto military commander of Tripoli as we speak? I'll give you a name.
I'm gonna
Can you guess?
I'm gonna guess it. It's gonna have something to do with the United States.
No.
No.
His name is Abdul Hakim Balhaj, and he is an Al-Qaeda asset.
Wait, whoa. Back up.
Okay, well,
What are you saying here? What are you saying here? Break this down for me.
Let's get the story straight. This is the guy who organized the Berbers in the southwest mountains, southwest of Tripoli, the offensive last Saturday. He was the military commander of this offensive. So he was working in connection with the guys who came from Misrata to the shores of Tripoli, NATO bombardment, the Qatari Special Forces, the British SAS, etc. But how did this guy show up in the western Berber mountains? So we have to backtrack to 9/11. He was trained in Afghanistan. He was an Al-Qaeda asset, part of a very hardcore Salafist Islamist Libyan group called the Islamist Libyan group, exactly, translating from the French, in fact. And he was tracked by the CIA after 9/11. He was friends with Zarqawi. He was captured in Malaysia in 2003. He was tortured in Bangkok, where I lived at the time, in one of those extraordinary rendition CIA prisons in Bangkok. He was sent back to the Libyans. He made a deal with Saif al-Islam in 2009. He was released, and now he's the military commander of Tripoli.
I sell your heart to the drunk man, baby, for a buck. For a buck. If you're looking for someone to pull you out of that ditch, you're out of luck. You're out of luck. Ship is sinking. The ship is sinking. The ship is sinking. There's a leak in the boiler room. The poor, the lame, the blind. Who were the ones that we kept in charge? Killers, thieves, and warriors. God's away, God's away, God's away on business, business. God's away, God's away, God's away on business.
Well, the SEC had a number of different levels of investigation. They had a thing called a MUI, which is a matter under inquiry, and this is basically any preliminary investigation, any tip that came in from a whistleblower or from a self-regulating organization like the Stock Exchange or FINRA, if they have suspicious trades, anything like that. If they investigated it and they did not get permission from the people up above in the SEC to proceed to a full-blown investigation, they then shredded all that evidence they gathered in the preliminary stage. So they destroyed all the evidence of all MUIs dating back to 1993, and that might be as many as 18,000 cases.
Under whose authority?
Under the authority of the Enforcement Division. Now, there's no legal authority to do this. You know, apparently, according to my sources, this was illegal. You can't just unilaterally shred any government document, no matter how insignificant. And these are significant law enforcement investigatory files that they were unilaterally destroying.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar sting. Try to kill it all away, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away.
Their documents were public then, and then the Dodd Commission came out, Norman Dodd and others, where they planned to set up a world government, get everybody in debt,
implode the nation states and have a new bank of the world. And now we see it being announced, and Europe's told there's a new financial dictatorship run by private banks, and they will dictate everything, not your parliaments, not your governments. And we have a super Congress now that originates the spending and tax bills, not the regular Congress, for the first time in 200 plus years.
I hurt my day.
And that we were introducing a new era into the history of economics because we were issuing paper money and we could spend that around the world. And there's been a lot of fiat currencies throughout history, but never one like we have today. And that's what people are discovering. The financial crisis is discovering this. And this is why they're not coming up with any answers. The bubble was just too big, and they won't allow the bubble to be liquidated and bad debt liquidated.
This one's for Larry Silverstein. Last time we talked, sir, I asked you if you could address some of the 9/11 conspiracy theories that you were accused of. Sadly, your response has actually invited more of them. I mean, for the record, everybody knows your infamous comments on PBS where you said pull Building 7 on 5/25 on the day of 9/11.
They were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. Because, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. And this one thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Your official response was that it was the firefighters. My question is, it was pretty clear that you meant the building, and if it was the firefighters, they already are outside the building by 12 because the water lines were broken.
Ask the question.
And the fire chief that you said you spoke to, Fire Chief Negro, denies talking to you on that day of 9/11. Can you answer those questions and address the theories against you?
Well, I think the 10th anniversary is the appropriate occasion to sum up all the research that's been done over 10 years, which suggests that the story we've been given about 9/11 is not true.
But what do you say to those people who say that it's so insensitive to have it on September 11th, on the 10th year anniversary?
I think the people who find it insensitive are probably people who feel that folks like me are nuts and busybodies with nothing better to do. If that's your perspective, you would see it as insensitive. But if you open up your mind to the possibility that we are actually researchers, in my case, university professor for 30 years, doing my best research on this, and we're trying to determine what happened, why it happened, and who did it, those kinds of questions, and we're saying the official story is wrong. I think if you open your mind to the possibility that we're right, it's not insensitive, it's actually crucial. Why would Canadians want to build their foreign policy and their domestic policy on a lie?
A hurricane is like a supersized Tesla coil, and it does create field effects outside of the cloud cover, including within the cloud cover, but outside of it. And I'm not saying I know for certain that was used, but I do know that was there, and we have evidence of it because JFK Airport, LaGuardia Airport, and Newark Airport all reported thunder on 9/11. Evidence of field effects. That's already been done, so that risk is no longer there. More importantly, if we ignore it, you can be sure it will be used again. That's what 9/11 showed. And if you look at the evidence straight on, put your emotions aside and just look at what is there, you will realize this is a new technology that was demonstrated in front of the entire planet. Is undeniable. That hurricane was essentially stationary for 12 hours before and 12 hours after 9/11, the events of 9/11. For about a little over 24 hours, it stayed pretty much stationary. It just got bigger. A 12 on the Richter scale is enough to split the Earth in half. And it was a crystal clear day, yes, right over New York. But if you took a picture just to the east, you'd get a hurricane in the picture. That same amount of energy is what the Earth receives per day from the sun. Think about that. That energy can be used to split the Earth in half, or that same amount of energy can be used to sustain all life on the planet. Of course, we know that 9/11 was a psychological operation. No matter what story you even take on, and if you're going to believe somebody's story, every story out there is a psychological operation. Bin Laden trying to get at us because he hates us for our freedoms, or whatever the story you want is a motive to scare people. The energy produces a static field. I don't know, that this is exactly what was used, but it could have been. And I find it mighty strange, especially in contrast to Hurricane Irene, that there wasn't much discussion about Hurricane Erin. It really was underreported. It was a Category 3 hurricane, not just Category 1. It was headed directly towards New York with no land in the way. But a hurricane is like a huge Tesla coil. It creates a static field outside of the Tesla coil, just like regular Tesla coil or a Van de Graaff generator. And those are what John Hutchison uses to create the same effects. And the interference is what causes the effects. So it's just the field effect you need from a static field, and the hurricane could have provided that.
Now do you believe? What are you doing here?
Feel the Cleons! Severus, isn't it? Done!
When the lieutenant became unconscious, the alien lost energy.
It subsists on the emotions of others.
This one appears to be strengthened by mental radiations of hostility, violent intentions.
It exists on the hate of others.
To put it simply, and it has acted as a catalyst, creating this situation. In order to satisfy that need, it has brought together opposing forces in an effort to promote the most violent mode of conflict.
We've got to get rid of it.
Then all hostile attitudes on board must be eliminated. The fighting must end, and soon.
Oh, we're a doomed ship. We've got to pool our knowledge.
We must
find a way to defeat the alien force of hate, stop the war now, or spend eternity in futile, bloody violence.
It has to stop.
Look, gagged for the rest of our lives. 1,000 lifetimes. Senseless violence. Fighting. While an alien has total control over us. It goes on and on. Good old game of war, pawn against pawn. Stopping the bad guys.
Get